And this is the February 10th, 2015 meeting of the Rowley Conservation Commission. This meeting of the Rowley Conservation Commission is hereby called to order under authority of MGL, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Town of Rowley's Wetlands Protection Bylaw, and the Stormwater Management and Erosion Control Bylaw. I'll call the roll for attendance. Dave DeMonico.
Here.
Bob Garner.
Here.
Judy Keys.
Here.
Sam Strife.
Here.
Martha Page is absent. Kurt Turner.
Here.
And Doug Watson.
Here.
Chairing, and we have a quorum present, Mr. Chairman.
All right. And we have what to sign.
And one has some administrative things. Friday, in amongst our fun with snowstorm, we received a delivery.
We're here. I'm up to the
We have our
camera here.
500,
That one's upside down on the right.
Yep. There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
conservation area, open space boundary markers, and our trail signage. And so therefore, I'm going to ask for approval of the invoices for said same.
You gonna mail these or?
Yes. Yeah. Purchased an appropriate estimated amount of aluminum nails for securing them. The invoices both go together. Technically, you just initialed the full amount, Doug, but what they do is the stock trail arrows are on a separate invoice from the custom order.
Okay.
Wondering myself why they did that, and then I noticed the C in front of the number for the invoice and the S. C for custom, S for stock. And it made sense. I'd also request reimbursement of postage for mailing out a permit. And Doug, that's the backup invoice for that. And the Postal Service, also this is our time for the annual box rental fee. Initial that's the letter with highlighted on the annual fee. Thank you very much. And if I may, in a few minutes before the first agenda item comes up. Last couple of days, had conversations with Merrimack Valley Planning Commission. They are in the final stages of the requested revisions to the Hunsley Hills Trail map. And so, conversation today, the only thing that needs to be added to the map is the driveway access road. Hadn't been carried over from the older plan. This is a new, well, not that it makes any difference. They redid the plan. As you can see, we've eliminated the upside down Hunsley Hills title block from the USGS survey.
Yeah, that's great.
And, well, and also oriented the map, though, correctly with north towards the top.
Yep.
It will be produced in color, an approximate 36 by 24 or 30, some bigger size than I can print out for use in the kiosk, and they'll provide us with two color printouts of that size, and then a couple smaller, just so we'll have a PDF electronic file that will be made available on the website for download. We've had all the trails depicted, as well as I also requested the ability for a future trail, which is the old county layout that goes over across to the police station, that apparently, I think the Pony Club and the horse riders used to use that as part of their trail ride, because there is an old sign facing into the woods where Haverhill Street used to go that says something about horseback riders,
Yes.
caution crossing
There
roads,
is, yeah.
or something like that, so I figured in the future, we'd muck out or a trail through there, since that would kind of then make sense and establish connectivity over through Eris Park for going to Smith Lane and
Yep.
accessing going over across to the Girl Scout camp in the future. So I'll put that on there and had them label it as a future trail, so.
I didn't know we had Haverhill Street frontage for this parcel. This green parcel. That's interesting, huh?
Yeah, I'm,
Not
I
sure
have
I
to look
believe
it up, because I'm not sure
Not sure I believe it.
exactly what it is.
Okay, well, I'm not concerned right now. Anyway, it looks good.
And we did, yeah, so once this map is completed, the only thing left to do is to reestablish those intersection numbers, since half of them are gone.
Yeah.
And actually, this map has a corrected layout for where they are.
Cool, good.
So if the commission is satisfied with how that's all,
Looks great.
I'll give
It
you
looks- does
the
look pretty
go to do the
A
final.
question though, is the new boundary markers, are they gonna be installed along the perimeter of, or some of the perimeter of,
If I can figure out where it is.
oh, because we don't know
Because the-
exactly where it is.
Right.
Okay.
Well, I haven't been able to locate a dedicated surveyed plan that encompasses the whole property. I'm not sure
Hmm.
if it was resurveyed. I do know of a plan that covers the area towards where the water department's easement is for the future tower. Boundary, who is it over there? Ashley? Is the property owner's name Ashley, that had that old 40B proposal that was wrapped up with access to Kathleen
That
Circle?
sounds,
and
that
stuff?
sounds right, yes.
Yeah.
Actually, I think it was.
Apparently, there was some type of negotiation, and I don't know if it occurred between the town and him. But anyway, it resulted in a survey of stone walls and stuff. I guess they had to decide where and which stone walls encompass some of that boundary line. So there was some kind of negotiation done, which resulted in a survey plan for that portion of the boundary.
Right.
May have been with the Herrick family, for all I know, but that's the only plan I found so far. I haven't found a dedicated plan for the whole Hunsley Hills property. So that being said,
I think it looks good.
Yeah.
right,
And the goal is to mark the boundaries. That
Yes.
might be a goal we can achieve immediately, but
right. But at some point, and if you're going to do it, there's two things you need. You need to have the markers to do it with, but you also need to have the information that gives you some sort of certainty that you are actually marking those
In the correct
correct
place.
boundaries.
Yeah.
But in terms of utilization and inviting the public to the property, this is kind of the final step, and the little footnote is just to get those intersections, have some numbers put on them. I was asked the question today of, what the distance was up there, and I'm gonna have to do some scaling once I get the big plan, because apparently they didn't generate, Merrimack Valley Planning Commission didn't generate that data when they did the acquisition for the layout of the trails. The first acquisition was done somewhere around 2002, I think, because the first map was dated 2003, so I assume collection occurred before that.
Okay.
Then the recent collection that they just did, they have the data, but they were never asked to actually generate what the linear distance was of the trails. So it wasn't something they could just give to me today when I asked. Okay, great, thank you.
That's good, thank you.
So we're, should get on time here.
This is the 7:45 item on the agenda. This is a legal notice of the Raleigh Conservation Commission. In accordance with the Wetland Protection Act, General Laws 131, Section 40 as amended, and the Town of Raleigh Wetlands Protection Bylaw, a public meeting will be held on Tuesday, February 10th, 2015 at 7:45 p.m., Room 5, Town Hall Annex, 39 Central Street, to consider a request for determination of applicability application filed by David L. Levitt for proposed construction after the fact of a 9 by 25 foot shed with brick patio approximately 8 feet by 27 feet, all possibly within the 100-foot buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetlands, coastal bank, salt marsh, and the 200-foot riverfront area of the Raleigh River, all at 11 Ocean Avenue, map 26, parcel lot 3 in Raleigh. Mr. Levitt? Yeah. If you want to come forward. Mr. Levitt, have you had an opportunity to read Brent's memo?
Yes, they did.
Okay, good.
I guess as far as it's concerned, it's pretty much there. What happened? What happened was I just spoke to the building inspector at one point and asked him if I needed a permit for a shed, and he says, as long as it's under 200 square feet, you don't. And so I assumed everything else was fine. So I went ahead and built the shed, and needless to say, I'm in the wetlands area, so.
Yeah. Well, you're not actually in the wetlands, you're in the buffer zone.
Buffer zone, right.
Yeah, right.
But, so I guess I'm here pleading your
Yeah.
forgiveness.
Well, let's see, it looks like you're 38 feet from the bordering vegetated wetlands and 30 feet from the top of the coastal bank. So we don't see top of the coastal bank quite so often. So that's, can you just point out for my edification what that measurement is? That's this guy. Oh, okay.
Right.
Yeah, and this is an approximation from a
Mhm.
plan that was created for a different purpose. Actually looking at the pictometry, the town's most recent pictometry in the aerial photography, you can get the relationship a lot better. And I do have a specific view here. This view that shows you the edge where these mature trees are on the level area, and it drops right off So, since the definition of coastal bank is a little indistinct in the regulations per se, I'm sort of calling it coastal bank instead of river bank because it drops right down into salt marsh. And then there's a fairly good expanse of salt marsh before it reaches the Rowley River.
Right.
Obviously, because you've got salt marsh there, you have tidal influence or whatever, so I'm considering it coastal bank. It's pretty well vegetated, and so in regards to the memo, I do disclose that on January 22nd, I met Mr. Levitt, and we both went down to establish whether in fact permitting was needed by taking some of these field measurements and stuff. I normally make it a pretty firm protocol to go visit once an application has been submitted, even if I've been on the site before. But the blizzard intervened. And so
And then the next blizzard.
our visit without mounds of snow was probably much more descriptive, and so therefore,
Right.
that's why I'm showing you the pictures that were gathered at that visit. And because we're dealing with a situation where the construction activity has already taken place, it doesn't seem very pragmatic to get involved about things like erosion control or things like that, but more,
So when approximately was this built?
A year ago,
A year ago.
about a year ago, yes.
And you would say that it looked pretty, the area looks pretty stable?
yes.
Whatever effects of construction there may have been.
Right. Well, and I tried to address a couple of things in the suggested conditions that I've proposed for the Commission's consideration tonight. First off, we were visiting it in the winter time, so we couldn't see really any vegetative growth. Because of the predominant hardwood overstory there, there's a fair amount of leaf litter on the ground, which didn't really lend itself to one figuring out if there were bare spots or, but there were no visible signs. I mean, it's very level. There was no signs of any gullying or any other erosion activity taking place going into the salt marsh or harming the bank. And so in trying to anticipate if the commission had been approached prior to the construction activity, I think due to the sensitive nature of this area, I tried to address what I thought might be some of the commission's concerns. Vista pruning, in other words, how much pruning and other activities would be allowed to take place on the bank, since the stability of that bank is directly keyed into how much vegetation is actually holding it in place. And then the other type of thing, usually in that area where an activity is proposed that close to the edge of bordering vegetated wetlands and or salt marsh, the commission usually seeks to establish some type of no cut, no disturbance zone. So instead of approaching it from that standpoint, since this is an after the fact situation, I thought it might be more reasonable to establish an area of usage and access to the shed and patio that's right around the existing shed, and just talk about landscaping, pruning, trimming occurring in that area, but not going out. And this probably would necessitate a future visit with Mr. Levitt, just to talk about some means of putting something out there that sort of shows where these areas are, more or less just in talking about the vista pruning for your viewscape of the river and the salt marsh. We had the same situation with Massachusetts Audubon Society when they established the Rough Meadows Sanctuary. They had a couple of places that they wanted their trail, and they also put in an observation platform. So they had a couple of places that they wanted to be able to
establish sort of a frame so that when you were standing at that spot, you didn't have stuff growing in front of you and obscuring your view. That's called vista pruning,
Right.
so you establish a kind of min and max, or 2 points where you just say, I'm not gonna prune and trim anything beyond this point on the
Mhm.
right side, and I'm not gonna go any further here on the left side. And there was a few scattered materials and stuff around there. I think I may have saw one thing that could possibly hold water, and we usually require people to clean up the site around their construction activity, especially anything that might contribute to mosquitoes breeding by holding water. So there is a suggestion in there about the picking up any scattered debris and stuff. And then you and I had a discussion about hazard trees coming down.
Right.
And so I made a suggestion in there that, again, that we would consult, get together, if there was a specific tree, and talk about, either removal, dropping it in place, or some middle ground somewhere in between that, depending upon the situation.
Right.
So a little different than we normally propose in terms of conditions, but trying to react to how the situation is and be as responsive and respectful with Mr. Levitt, as well as recognize the sensitivity of that area.
How do you get your power out to there? I don't see, maybe I'm just not seeing it. I don't see overhead cable.
No,
very
no,
well.
it's underground.
Yeah. Does that cable run roughly along the path? If you
Yes.
remember.
Yes, right.
What are these little things here? I don't even know if they're on the property.
Is there another little kiosk or something where your gangway to your dock is over on the right-hand side? Is there another little shed or outbuilding or something?
No, there's no. Oh, there's
Is that-
the lighthouse.
Ah,
The lighthouse, that's what that is.
A little
Little
model lighthouse.
model lighthouse.
Yeah. Well, I don't have any issues with this. These seem like reasonable conditions to me. Do they to you?
Yes,
That
right,
You're
very
you're
much
okay
so.
with all of them? Anyone else have any thoughts or comments? Um, Are you asking me what it is?
Yeah.
What's that? Looks like maybe it's more man-made debris. Piece of,
might be,
piece of concrete or something, possibly.
yeah, concrete or broken white plastic bucket or
see it.
something up there. They're trying to test both of our memories since I was back on January 22nd, but,
Yeah, no.
Oh, yeah.
so it's over towards the woodland.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna say go out there and find it under
No,
60
not tonight, for sure. Maybe
Not to
tomorrow.
mention it's white.
Good luck.
I'm not sure what it is.
Okay, well,
Well, again, we can,
yeah.
when we meet out on the property, we
We
can
can
react
make sure.
appropriately if it is a piece of debris or
Yep.
something else that needs to be corralled and put in its proper place, we can
All right,
address
well,
that.
sounds like everyone is satisfied that this is reasonable. I have no doubt we would have allowed it had you approached us beforehand.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize.
Just as long as you have us all out there for some barbecue or something.
Sure, we'll.
People
That's
will
what
take
the-
you seriously.
Yeah, no, that's a joke.
Yeah. What's your name again, Dick? No, that's the reason for the screened-in porch,
Yeah.
at the end of it, it's because of the mosquitoes and the greenheads there. As you all know, the marsh is the breeder of all of them.
All right, then, if there are no further questions or comments, do I have a motion to, let's see, close the hearing and issue a negative determination, option number 3, with the 6 conditions stated in the memorandum?
So move.
And a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All against? You're all set.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
You're very welcome.
I'll send that to you in the mail, Dave, and
Okay.
then whenever we see growing things again in the snow, we'll get
Once we
together
see
on
them growing up through, we'll be fine. Sure. All right, thank you.
Thank you. And the town informed us that we're going to have a repave all Central Street, the sidewalk, including going over to Glen Street, which is a good idea. And it's a huge project, major cost. We need police and fire stations, and they're talking about redoing the Central Street. Ridiculous. The only people that are right up on it, people who live on Central Street, according to my friends who live on Central Street.
Did they hold that hearing yet?
No, it's,
They're on
coming
the
up.
road on the 23rd.
I think it's in, yeah, I think it's in my calendar. All right, this is with respect to the 8 o'clock item on our agenda, which is the continued notice of intent for 56 Newburyport Turnpike, Mark Savory. I have a letter to the commission from Clearwater Environmental. And I'll read the letter. Brent, please request one more continuance. I am hoping that will be all we need now. We should be available with the revised plans to show the commission in the very near future. And just to review, this has been continued a number of times, pending revision of plans that are before the planning or zoning? I think it's planning. Planning. So they're working on that. So do I have a motion? It looks like she just wants 3 more weeks.
Yes, to the next meeting. I did get revised plans were submitted
You did?
and received by the planning board
Okay, but at least
just last week.
they
so-
exist now.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's moving along.
Yeah, and the project has changed in terms of the orientation of the building and stuff, so.
Has or has not?
It has.
It has,
It
okay.
has, so there will be a bearing on them coming back before the commission to
Okay.
talk about the project changes.
Alrighty, so do I have a motion to continue this matter to the March 3rd, 2015 hearing?
So moved.
Second. Lots of seconds, sorry.
It's okay.
All in favor?
I know the next one.
All in favor? Everybody can say yes this time.
Yes.
Yes. Everyone's in favor. Okay.
Great.
Continue. Okay.
Thank you so much.
yeah.
Okay, the next agenda item is the continued review of the proposed conservation restriction for Broad Street Farm Conservation Area and off Main Street. Main Street Lot A, map 26, parcel 26, lot 1. The draft was submitted to the state, was returned from the state to Mass Audubon, then we had a subsequent review of that revision by Town Council Judy Pickett. And there weren't any substantive changes to it. There were a couple little formatting things that I had addressed back at the February 4th here, and so before you for your consideration and possible signing tonight is the revised and reviewed CI for the Broad Street Farm.
And Attorney Pickett has approved it?
Yes.
In this form.
Yes.
This is going to the state now?
This would then be submitted to the selectmen for their consideration and possible signage of the document, and then it would be submitted to Executive Office of Environmental Affairs for the Secretary's consideration.
She is on the docket for one of these upcoming Massachusetts something or other. Programs, the woman that has to approve these plans, the lawyer at the state level. She's on 3 sessions. Remember the woman?
Oh, Irene Del Bono, who does
Yes.
the review
Yes.
of the specific language?
Yes, she's on 3 sessions in one of those Saturday meetings up in Worcester.
Oh, probably, yeah, she's very active in land conservation, and so I think, although she may participate in the MACC conference, but I know she's at the Land Trust, Mass Land Trust conference, which I requested the ability to attend.
That's the one.
Well, I have no further comments on it, if it's okay with Attorney Pickett. And the next step is to sign it, I think. In my opinion, it's time to sign it. Anyone else have any consideration to doing anything different?
Same here.
Just to recap, one of the last things we did was Mass Audubon prepared a revised expanded footprint area for the community gardens in consultation with our office in order to recognize the fact that the commission had already had one request for expansion, and due to the fact that a stone wall hedgerow between pastures hadn't originally been accounted for, which had kind of cramped the original area that had been dedicated for community gardening. So that's been recognized, and of course during the survey of the resurvey of the property bounds that the commission recently had conducted in conjunction with consideration of the CR, we had the corners marked, so there now is an exhibit included in this CR that does show an expanded area for community gardening activities.
Okay. So do we need a vote, or do we, I think we just need to sign it.
Yeah, you really just need to sign it. But I would suggest a motion, though, acknowledging finalization and also the recommendation to then send it on for consideration by the Board of Selectmen.
All right, do I have such a motion?
Second?
And all in favor?
Aye.
All against? The motion carries, and I think you have an original there. For our signature.
Massachusetts Audubon Society has started the process of putting together a baseline report.
Right, I think you told me that. That's their next.
Well, that's
step.
kind of what brought the community garden
Right.
business
Sure,
to
yeah.
the forefront,
Mhm.
and their thoughts that preparing an exhibit to express and document the expanded activity area would be good for all concerned. Thank you very much. So I will be notarizing this, so later on I'll ask you, Doug, to sign my notary book when
Yep,
I
okay.
get it all stamped and everything.
Yeah.
There's too much of a rush since next Monday is a holiday, so the selectmen are out meeting.
Okay. All right, that brings us to the end of the agenda items. Other than status reports, permits, and enforcement.
Don't really have anything other than forwarded on to you, of course, the emergency declaration and the fact that DEP is considering individual municipalities' application for the possibility of relaxing their snow disposal
Yeah.
guidelines.
So that wasn't statewide, that was only applies to those communities that asked for the waiver?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
And I would.
Only to municipalities.
Only to municipalities, not to any private or, although I believe they did also afford that exemption specifically to DCR for DCR managed properties in Boston.
Makes sense.
You also have to have experienced significant snow accumulation, and it has to be
Check.
a criteria that it's in the interest of public health and safety, i.e. the safety of transportation and the ability for emergency vehicles and others to, as well as for the public to pass and repass, as they say, on our roadways. So you can't just say, oh, I've got a river next door to me, I'd like to put some
Well-
snow in it if you don't have a problem.
I don't know if you've been
Get
to
them out of
Boston
the driveway.
or Cambridge in the last few days, but man, just be glad you live
Well, on
here.
the South
They
Shore,
just avoid
which
it.
I think saw even more.
Yeah, but
more
Boston got a
specific.
lot of
Seems
snow
like the thing
in
to do.
Cambridge, and their streets are so inadequate.
Oh, yeah, they're narrow to begin
And
with.
they have
so.
so many cars and people, it's just, my daughter lives in Cambridge, and it's just bad as it's ever been. Plus the kids aren't even
It's
in
bad
school.
on a normal day, I mean, just
Yes.
without,
It's bad on-
without the weather
Right.
impacting it.
It struck me as being totally useless for Rowley. We don't have any open water that we can dump stuff into except in the town pier, and it has to be flowing, and that thing's rather sleepy little area, and you know, if we have those kind of problems, we can't make use of that, and all the restrictions rule everything else out.
Well, there's a different way of looking at it, and you could look at it and say, gosh, the highway department previously, even before we started getting snowfall, had contacted the conservation office, and we had made provisions and had identified 2 areas for snow disposal, as well as, again, reserved the backup site, a 3rd site, back on the Bradstreet Farm affordable housing parcel, which could again be called into the service as a snow dump, but it just had, it was not the preferred area. We've identified parking lot area on the Girl Scout property that meets the criteria and has probably just as much square footage available as was identified down at the town landing
The one right in the front,
conservation areas.
right on in Weathersfield, that parking?
No, back further. When you go back in, there's an administrative building.
Yeah.
It has a large gravel parking area that's probably 500 to 600 feet long. And Pat Snow, our highway surveyor, contacted me ahead of time, and so I did field work out there and determined that there were bordering vegetated wetlands off the very far end, but prior to that, before the parking lot starts kind of constricting, there's a good point with a large oak tree on one side and another tree that I established ribbons on, and so when they did their first plowing, they established and plowed that area so they'd know where to start stockpiling the snow if they needed to. I have
There's a
not.
little bit of a rise to get up to that, isn't there?
Yeah,
okay.
but they fixed that access drive. They
Okay.
repaired that prior to the onset of frozen ground conditions.
Mhm.
Where's the 3rd space? I think it's-
Well, the first space is the town landing conservation area that we established the previous year.
Back from the
So
parking
then-
area.
Yeah, so
The
then,
boat parking area.
yeah, so then the second space is the Girl Scout property, and the 3rd space would be back on the Bradstreet Farm property, but on the affordable housing parcel. It doesn't have any close proximity to bordering vegetated wetlands and is all vegetated, so that anything gets filtered out as it melts. And it's all open field, except for the few apple trees there.
And the problem for cities, in Boston especially, is they don't have any open space like that. You know, what open space they have is parkland, and really not an appropriate setting for that. So,
And they need it more than we do, because they've got to remove more of it.
That's right. They need their space back. Did you see that the mayor of Boston ordered ice melting machines? Did not know such things existed.
I think it's a good idea.
Kind of makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Instead of picking this frozen stuff up and moving it.
Well,
It's
the
just water.
MBTA has borrowed a device, I've never seen it, but I've heard
Okay.
tell that basically it's a jet turbine that's on
Oh, really?
a rail chassis or whatever,
Yeah.
and it not only
de-
blows the snow, but it's
De-ices.
like a
It
jet
heats it.
turbine, you know,
De-ices.
flaring out or whatever, that it melts it.
As long as you don't set the neighborhood on fire.
Well, I hope it evaporates it. It's unclear from watching it on television that it does that, or whether it just melts it, which then just gonna refreeze as soon as they go over it. But,
True.
I guess the assumption is that most rail beds are usually elevated and that hopefully
Yeah,
it runs off.
Drainage.
gravel bed, so.
Well, worst places to be than Rowley. With this snow. All right, well then, you don't have any enforcement matters. We don't have anything else on our agenda. Is there anything else we need to talk about? I think, okay. A motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. 8:16, that's like just.